Okay, let's talk about exam 2. A couple things is, first of all, exam 2 is cumulative. So it is going to cover everything for this semester. Now, also another thing about exam 2 is kind of like our final exam. All right. If you read the syllabus and all that, I realize we're working pretty hard with the problem sets and the labs and all of that. And so having some problem sets and all of that leading right up into finals week and then having to take a final on top of that, it's a little overwhelming. So we're going to only have 2 exams. This is that second exam, and it will be cumulative, and we will not have a final during finals week. All right. But you will have a problem set in a lab that last week, and that'll keep you plenty busy and active. So it is cumulative. It's kind of like a final, kind of like an early final in a way, sort of. But it's only going to cover stuff up through our trig modules. Okay. So that being said, it is cumulative, but we're going to stick mostly to the recent stuff. Okay. So what I mean by that is, well, since our last exam, we've covered things, exponential, logarithms, all the trig stuff. So that'll be kind of the meat of the exam. And then we'll go back and we'll grab 1 or 2 topics out of this stuff before that. Okay. And so what's an example? Like, you can certainly absolutely guarantee that I'm going to have you break down a polynomial. That's just really important. Being able to break that down, understand the parts and all that, right? So like if I gave you something like f of x or y equals 3x to the 4th minus 2x squared plus 10x minus 1, right? How many terms does it have? How many, zeros could it have? Descartes' rule of signs, rational root theorem, try to break it apart. What's the multiplicity of these zeros, right? All that stuff, super, super important. And if you need to, you can go back and watch the exam 1 review. There's 2 videos there for that. And that can kind of brush you up on some of those things. So absolutely guarantee something about that will be on there. And it's pretty good chance something about a rational function, right? Similar to the first exam. So maybe I give you a rational function, tell me what the asymptotes are, right? Or I had flipped it around. I had a question where it was something like create a rational function that had a hole here, a vertical asymptote here, a horizontal asymptote here, right? So kind of being able to go either way. All right. So that's kind of what the exam looks like. But to go further, you do take it into Canvas. All right. It is timed. All right, so 2 hours, unless you have accommodations. All right. You do get to take it at home. I don't know why I wrote taken in all caps. Unless you're going to use it to sub for exam 1. Because I do have that policy. If you miss exam 1, you can replace exam 1 with this exam, but since exam 1 was proctored, you would have to take this one in a proctored setting to be able to do that. And that's only for missed exams. That's not for everybody, and maybe that's seen as not fair, but it's, it is what it is. And also, this exam is harder, and so by taking the first exam, you probably did better there than you did in this one. Maybe, I don't know, maybe not. I guess maybe everything's clicking, you're going to do fine. But long story short, it's just we want to try to not overwhelm the testing centers, and so I prefer to only send people that need it for the makeup purpose. Okay. But anyhow, otherwise, if you're not trying to do that and not trying to sub it for exam 1 because you missed exam 1 because you were sick or other things, then you can just take it at home. And by the way, because you're taking it at home, it's open book, open note, and all that stuff, right? But having said that, if you are looking every single question up in your notes or in the book, it's probably going to take too long, and you're probably not going to finish, and you're going to lose points. Okay? So you still need to study, you still need to know what you're doing, otherwise you're going to run out of time. But speaking of time, how many questions is it? Oh, I don't know. It's 20 to 30 questions. That's kind of misleading because some questions have more parts than others. Like, part A, B, C. Some questions certainly, though, they're going to be, it is going to be a mixture of things like multiple choice, short answer, right? There will be some show your work. So the way that'll work is it'll say on the exam, show your work for this question, and then you do it on paper, and then within a half an hour of completing the exam, you need to have scanned that work and submitted that work in Canvas. And all the directions for that are in the module, so make sure you check that out. Trying to think what else. Maybe a short essay or something. When I say essay, I'm like a one paragraph thing. I don't know. Yeah, so it's very much a mix like your first exam, yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think of what other things could be helpful. Yeah, I'm not going to try to do any gotchas or anything like that. Yeah, just know how to solve your equations, know what to do. Yeah, so exponential, logarithms, your trigs. Now, there were like 3 parts to trig. Your right triangle trig, you guys should know that. That's also like your unit circle trig. That should have been reviewed for a lot of you, so that shouldn't be a problem. Your periodic functions, so your sine, cosine functions, trying to figure out how to graph them, what that looks like. So what's the period, the amplitude, etc. Oh, speaking of that, I can tell you this. I'm not going to have graphs of secant and cosecant and cotangent. I will not put that on the exam, so I can tell you that. So that'll cut some studying for you. It's not that they're not important. It's just there are things that are more important. I guess I'll say it that way. So don't worry about those. Yeah. What else? Let's see here. Then, of course, your trig applications, your trig identities, right? So there was a lot of trig stuff there. And so that, with exponentials and logs, again, that's going to be the biggest chunk of the exam, over half of the exam. And then you'll have a little bit where we'll dive back and pull some things from previous stuff. So, all right. At this point, I feel like I'm rambling, so I think we'll call it at that. And hopefully that kind of helps get you an idea of what to think about, what to study, what's the expectation, and all that. If you have any questions, of course, give me a ring or give me an email or whatever. So, all right. with that, good luck, and I hope you all do well.